So what are your earliest memories of Land Rovers?
I think my earliest memory of a Land Rover was I was about 7 or 8 when my parents got me a small, remember the small little matchbox cars, and I think it was a Series 3, and it had a little tyre on the bonnet, and which was, you know, pretty cool. And then a couple of years later, a friend of mine's dad had a Series 3, and I got a spin in the back of it. He was a butcher, and I remember sitting in the back of it going, oh God, this is so cool. So I think that kind of set the seed, and that kind of got me interested in them as vehicles.
And how did you come across your own vehicle?
So how did I come across my own vehicle? Well, it's just, it was 18 years ago now, but I saw it in an ad in the newspaper, and it was located not too far away from where I was living at the time. And yeah, so I went down and had a look at it, and you know, just fell for it straight away. Went to the bank, asked for a loan, got the loan approved, asked them to hold on to it, gave them a deposit, and I remember going on collecting it. This is the first time I've ever driven a four-wheel drive, was going to collect it. I had cars all my life, and I remember driving away from the garage and thinking to myself, oh my God, how cool this is now. You know, it was like driving a tractor for the first few minutes, but I got over that. And just the whole thing of being able to see over the hedges, which you can't obviously, you know, see when you're driving a car, just was, you know, I just knew it was the right decision, and I had big plans for it at that stage. Yeah.
And you said you had big plans for it. What were your plans? What was its main purpose in your mind when you were buying it?
So what was the main purpose for me buying it? Well, I mean, you know, as I said, I always loved them, like having, as a child, I always loved them. I was, at the time, I was always into camping, and still am. I was also into hiking, so I did a lot of hiking and camping, and you know, the idea of buying the Defender, now it was a 90, so the idea of buying it was that it would, you know, give me the opportunity to get off the beaten track and camp in remote areas, and see, you know, just see more remote areas by having it, get into places that you can't get to in a car, but also being able to carry more camping equipment and so on. Yeah, so that was, I guess, the main reason.
And you said you have it nearly 18 years now. What have you done with it so far, and where have you been? So
where have I been with it in the last 18 years? Well, I've been around Europe in it. I've gone to, you know, been to France and Germany, and I've been to Italy, and you know, a couple of other countries in Europe. I also had the opportunity 10 years ago where I took it to Iceland, and that was just a great trip. So took it off the beaten track there, camped for a couple of weeks in the middle of Iceland, took it through the centre of Iceland, and you know, really enjoyed that. A couple of years later, I moved to Australia, and the Land Rover wasn't going to be left behind, so I put it on a ship and I shipped it over to Australia. And while I was there, I was working as kind of a freelance photographer, and I also wrote articles for Camping and Four-Wheel Drive Touring magazine. So that was just a great couple of years, because I got a chance to, you know, take the vehicle out to much more remote areas and, you know, do some articles. And yeah, it was the dream job, you know. And while the Defender was there, it just, you know, it really got to do what it was built for. You know, it's not, the vehicle is factory standard. It doesn't have any, you know, souped up sort of engine or anything like that. It's bog standard. And you know, to say that you know, it hasn't caused me any problems, I'd be telling you a lie. Anybody who owns a Land Rover, if they tell you that they don't have any problems with them, well, it's just not true, because you do. But look, it's always pretty much got me home. So yeah.
And would you say it's a good idea for anyone who's just recently bought a four-wheel drive vehicle to join a club, or?
Yeah, I think it's really important for anybody who buys a four-wheel drive vehicle for the first time to join a four-wheel drive club. When I had it in Australia, I joined the Sydney Land Rover Club, and it was just started, the Land Rover Club for New South Wales and the Sydney branch, and it was just a great way to learn more about your vehicle. You're going to be, you know, meeting guys who are, you know, who know their stuff. They've been doing this for years. For me, having moved to Australia, you know, I was going to be going off the beaten track, on my own, and you know, it was really important that I understood what was involved and what I needed to carry and the type of gear and so on, because you know, problems do happen, and you know, when you're not prepared. So I learned so much from these guys. It was just such a great learning experience, and gave me the confidence to go off out a bit further and so on. So I'd highly recommend anybody who's buying a four-wheel drive for the first time, join your local club, because it's invaluable experience you get from being part of groups like that.
You must have some great stories to tell over 18 years of travelling with your vehicle.
Yeah, over the 18 years, as I said, I mean, I have some great old stories. When I first bought the vehicle, you know, it was, you know, I was single. You know, as the years rolled on, I got married and I have 2 kids now, and you know, so we've had great sort of camping trips, and you know, my wife is not a huge fan of camping, but you know, she has embraced it as I improved, you know, the gear we had and so on, and made it just that little bit more comfortable. But as regards stories, I mean, look, I've got some good stories and bad stories. I have more good stories than bad stories, but I have gotten, you know, got stuck on the top of a mountain one time and had to get a JCB to get me off the mountain. I broke down in the middle of the outback one time where I did the gearbox in, and had to travel a couple of 100 kilometres in 4th gear, which was not fun. You know, yeah, come through a river one time and did some damage to the engine. But look, I always got home. As I said, like, you know, it always pretty much hobbled home when I've had a few issues. But yeah, so yeah, there's plenty of stories there. All right.
So you've had the vehicle now for 18 years. Starting to show its age a little. You know, you talk about maybe starting to do some work on it.
Yeah, so the vehicle, as I said, is 18 years old now, and you know, it's been around. It's getting a little bit kind of shook, and it's in need of a little bit of TLC. So I've decided to do a bit of a rebuild on it. As I said to you, it's a standard TD5 engine in it. It's you know, factory stock, but it just needs a little bit of a bit of TLC. So the build is going to start now, and as part of this build, teamed up with some really good companies, and we're going to be adding some cool stuff onto it. It's not going to be one of those super duper builds that you see on the internet that's cost crazy amounts of money. I'm going to reclaim as much stuff as I can in the vehicle. It's not going to be kind of replacing everything with something new, but it is going to be, I hope, over the next 9 months, a pretty impressive build from the point of view of having a kind of a vehicle that will do for the next 20 years. I never was going to get rid of it, although the decision had to be made around, you know, what do I do? I needed to do something to keep it going for the next 20 years. So yeah, so that's why the build is now going to happen. So yeah, so we're pretty excited about it.
And if people want to keep up with the progress of the build, what should they do? Or?
Yeah, so if you want to follow the build, you might have a Land Rover Defender yourself. You might have another four-wheel drive, and you're kind of looking to do it up. You might get some ideas from it. You can check it out on the TURAS website, which is www.turas.tv. www.turas.tv. So the magazine comes out 4 times a year. It's an online magazine. It's free, and we'll be covering it in that. We'll also be doing videos showcasing the various stages of the build. That will be built into the magazine. We're on Facebook. There's an Instagram account there as well. So it'll be pretty widely covered. Also at the end of this build, which is probably going to take 6 to 7 months, there's going to be a separate online interactive magazine where you can, you know, go through it from the start right to the finish, and you might get some ideas. So yeah, if you're interested in following, just check it out. Well, thanks for watching our introductory episode on the TURAS Land Rover build. It's now time to roll up the sleeves and get started on this ambitious and exciting project. In the next episode, we'll be taking the Defender into the garage to get some key mechanical works done, so do join us for that. If you want to subscribe and be notified of the next episode, just click on the link below. Special thanks to all our sponsors for helping to make this happen, and we'll see you all next time.